Hey there, art teachers. Happy New Year. This might not be a popular opinion, but I actually love New Year's resolutions. In fact, I typically write 8 New Year's resolutions, and I'm just amazed at what I can accomplish within a year. I've been doing that kind of system for several years now, and what really changed things for me was having a review. So at least twice a month, I sit down, I open up my list with all 8 of those goals, and I make myself update what's going on with those goals. What am I doing to move things forward? What can I do to make these even better? And it helps to keep me motivated and focused. For example, I love the Apple Watch, like the monthly challenges that they do. So I might write an update that, we're in the 3rd month of the year. I've accomplished 3 out of 12 of those. Just a quick update so that I can see things are moving forward. Now, what amazes me is very often I've actually achieved the goal that I set at the beginning of the year, and I had to keep rewriting new goals in many of the categories this year. I was super impressed this year in particular with how many books I read. Now, in this video, we're going to be talking about art teacher specific New Year's resolutions, things to help you get more organized, save time, feel more energetic in your art room. And I'm going to share some personal goals of mine as we move through those. Make sure you keep watching until the end, because there is going to be a freebie with some specific things you can do to start making changes in your art room this year. Cheers. As art teachers, everything about our job involves time, and we just don't have enough of it. So one thing we can do that's within our control is to use that time more effectively. I am personally trying to work on this, and one thing that I'm going to try to do is come into school about 10 minutes earlier in the morning. Now, I'm going to do this to try and get a little bit more done and to help my afternoons so that I'm leaving at the time I'd like to. Now, I figured if I could come in 10 minutes early, 5 days a week, it's almost an hour of focused time to get stuff done. I find that I have the most energy in the morning, so I think this is going to pay off. And there's not a lot of other people at school, so it's quiet and I can stay focused. There's also just art teacher chores that need to be done in the morning. Things like taking everything off the drying rack that was wet when I left the day before, or moving things around in the kiln room. So having that extra 10 minutes will really lower my stress level when trying to get like 50 things done before my first class walks into the door. Now, in the afternoon, I want to try to stick to the time that I want to leave. So I'm going to be using an alarm on my watch. I had done this in the past, and it just kind of like refocused me. In the morning, it let me know, hey, like you should be in the car leaving right now. And I felt good when I was in the car already moving, but also kind of like, oh, if I was still getting ready, it made me go a little bit faster. Because sometimes in the morning, and I know many other people do this, the day's going to get away from you. You're not going to have any time to yourself. You start Googling things, buying things. You're doing things on your phone that don't really need to be done at that moment, but you just let yourself get distracted. Okay, that's me in the morning sometimes. So I'm going to try to cut those things out so that I can be at school on time. My plan for the afternoons, I'm going to still structure my week in the same way. I typically stay later at school on Mondays and Fridays, and that doesn't bother me. On Monday, I stay late to reset for the week. Mondays are just hard. I have really challenging classes on Monday this year. They don't come to school very much on Monday. We have a lot of holidays on Mondays, which I'm sure a lot of you can relate to, but also this year in my district, about 7 days, which are all Mondays, we have a 3-hour early release. So we have a shortened schedule on those 7 days. So those kids really just don't get a lot of art. I have been only doing some of the projects with them. So whatever's happening on Monday doesn't usually match up with what's going on in the rest of the week. So like Tuesday is the new Monday, that I have to set things up Monday night that's going to happen on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. That's different than what my students were just doing. So it's a lot of like moving around materials and things like that. So that doesn't bother me. Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, at the end of this past year, in December especially, I started to see a creep that I wanted to leave at 4:30. And I set an alarm on my watch, like, hey, it's 4:30, like get out of your school. That is that's an hour past my contract time. Okay, that's plenty of time to get stuff done. But I did find a creep that I would get into a big project that I wanted to finish. And I was staying much later than I intended to. Now, one of the things that helped me in the past to keep track of what was I trying to get done, what was the most important, is using Google Keep. So this is a free app. It's through Google. I love it because it goes on my laptop, my iPad, my watch, my phone, and I can see my to-do list wherever I'm at. I can add things, but I can see it in categories. So I set one up that's just the morning, just the afternoon, just the sometimes I put one in that's like just my planning time so I can see, am I trying to do 75 things after school, but also being delusional thinking I'm going to leave an hour after my contract time? It really puts things into perspective, and you can help yourself so that you do not get overwhelmed. You can protect your own time and your sanity, figuring out what is the most important things you can do if you only have this much time to get ready for the next day. Now, I have videos on my channel about how to save time as an art teacher, and they are all organized within a playlist. I'm going to link them in the comments and the description down below. It's also going to be in that free document that I give you information about at the end of this video. Focusing in on student behavior as a goal is an excellent idea. Not only does it make your job easier, but it makes it more enjoyable. You want to create a very positive environment for students to learn in with really clear expectations, and you want to try to reduce disruptions and distractions. Now, to do this, you might want to start looking for books that appeal to your teaching style that could help you grow as a teacher. Maybe you can find a class in your area. Maybe you would like to just try some things out that you've always wanted to do. January is a great time of year to try things out, especially when you have things in your classroom that are not working. I have a whole video about doing kind of a behavior and rules reset when you return in the new year that you're definitely going to want to check out. It's a great time of year to make sure things are still moving in the right direction, or if they're not, to really harness things and turn it around so you have a positive ending to the school year. Anytime that you put into working on your behavior management is really worth the time because you're going to see a big payout. Now, I have a whole lot of videos on my channel about art room behavior management. I have them all for you in a playlist, so they're easy to watch, quite bingeable in content, and I'll make sure that I link them also in the description down below. It is no secret that a well-organized space makes your teaching easier and less stressful. I know from experience, it can become very overwhelming quickly if you are looking around for supplies, or you can't find a class's artwork, or the supplies are getting mixed together, or the supplies are getting damaged. So I really found out quickly as an art teacher that you need these organizational systems to survive. One thing that I did early on was I had just a little bucket and all the scissors went in there. After we would do a cutting project, there would be less scissors than we started with. And particularly if we were using the scrap bin, we would lose scissors inside of the scrap bin with all of the scraps. And the next class that would come in wouldn't have enough scissors. So I set up a system where I use an over-the-door shoe organizer, and I have used this for years. I recently replaced it after being at this school for 5 years because it was just looking a little bit rough, but it lived a good life. One pair of scissors goes in each little spot there. And I taught my students how to use it. So I had to get the shoe organizer, figure out how to hang it up, and teach that system to my students. So I taught them how to walk over and get the scissors and pull them out of the top of the pocket, to hug the scissors, to walk it back to their seat. But as I was teaching them about how to use the scissors in the beginning of my class during my lesson, I taught them how to put the scissors away. Okay, you're not wanting to teach those cleanup routines at the end of art. You're actually wanting to teach them at the beginning, so that when you refer back to this at the end, when you're actually wanting them to take action and put the scissors back, they already know what you're talking about. Now, the first couple times that we would use the scissors this year, I would also have the picture of this up on the board, reminding them where the scissors go back, where it's located in the room, how it should look when the scissors are put back the right way. I would also go through and say, you know, we're missing 2 pairs of scissors, because the beauty of how that is organized is you can tell when scissors are missing versus when I had them in the bucket and I couldn't quite tell if they were all there unless I took the time to stop and count them out. Now, after having done this for a few weeks, my students can take over and run the system of putting the scissors back by themselves, also noticing if some are missing, announcing that to the class, and then executing, finding those scissors and returning them. I do hold my students accountable where I have a happy and sad board. It's my behavior management system. I talk about that in other videos, so you can check that out. But they will get a frown for every missing scissors. So they are invested in making sure that they find them, they take care of the scissors, and they put them back. Now, I realize this whole thing about being organized as an art teacher is a lot because we use a lot of supplies. Many of us not only just have a room or a cart, but we might have a closet or a kiln room and storage spaces that we have to keep organized as well. So break up. If this is one of your goals, break this up for yourself. Try to tackle one cabinet a week or one shelf. Or even I've often gone in and been like, I am really bad at organizing clay tools. And I have taken over just that one supply. Last year I got into like, I don't like how I'm organizing my oil pastels. And I just really tackled that, like small things and systems that you will have. So the next year when you go to use the oil pastels, they're already organized and those systems will serve you for years, is worth your time. You can even take it down to just one project's materials, because especially if it's a project you're going to be doing again the next year, it takes some time to figure out like how is the best way to organize these supplies and distribute them to students and then pack them back up when we're done. But once you have that and you can just kind of use that from year to year, you will thank yourself. Now, I share a lot about the systems that I use and how I organize things within my art room that might also work for you. I'm going to definitely link that in those comments down below, and you're going to want to check that out if that's one of your goals. It's not enough just to get the supplies and your art making space organized, but you also need to focus in on organizing you to see some real results. Some easy things that you can do to get yourself more organized in the new year is focus in on creating templates, things like emails that you frequently send. Maybe you're always asked about how to get paint stains out of clothes or details about an upcoming art show, or maybe you have to send emails when there are behaviors in your class. Having that already pre-written and you can just kind of copy and paste and add details in the moment can really save you time. It seems like it's always the busiest days when those emails are getting thrown at you. It also can really help if you focus in on your organization for awards and art shows and how you're going to run those activities, because it takes a lot of behind the scenes organization to pull those off well with minimal stress. I also feel like it's a lot of work to hang student artwork. So that might be something you want to focus on within the new year. Do you want to hang up artwork more or less? Is there a way you can get help or a faster way that you could possibly hang and display things, or maybe even new opportunities of where you want to display your artwork in the community? I think a big thing for art teachers to be organized themselves is making sure that student artwork is organized. Sometimes I'll feel like I have it all together, and then just one day goes by and I'm suddenly looking at 100 new pieces of artwork that were left behind. So there's a lot that goes into organizing that. You need to organize things by class, of course, but sometimes by table. And I even take it farther by organizing by my students' seat number. You also have to organize things by grade level, and many of us have to grade that artwork as well. Don't worry, I've got you. I've got systems for all of those things, including when students are absent, and I'll link that in the comments as well. Focusing in on routines is really going to pay off in your art room. It's going to help things to run smoother, help make your classes more manageable. Not only is it going to save you time if your students know what to do, but it's also going to save you energy. Now, one thing you'll need to do when you're setting up new routines or you're coming in back after a break is you're going to need to repeat yourself. An example I always give of this is like the drying rack. At the beginning of the year, you know, the first week, everybody's using the drying rack. You might have 25 classes, 25 times you might be explaining how students are going to use the drying rack and put things on the drying rack. But your students only heard that once. So expecting them to come in and everybody to remember that and that routine to work perfectly week 2 is not really realistic. You're going to have to repeat yourself and make sure you are reteaching and modeling those routines several times in front of each of your classes. So some people might use a checklist or something to make sure that you've gone over routines with each classes. I tend to put them within my slides. I also, if I find that there's a routine in my class, it's just like not running well, I will make sure that I review it with every class at the beginning. So one thing that was happening that was kind of annoying to me is we have a little bucket where we keep little handheld brooms and dustpans. And I think particularly like the younger kids were confusing it with a trash can. So they were doing a great job of going around and sweeping up things in the art room, but they were putting their trash into that container that was just supposed to be for the brooms. So I had a picture up there of the brooms and the dustpans. I explained what that was for. I showed myself, cleaning up and sweeping with the broom. And then we talked about where we would throw that away and, walking and showing that trash can that's by the door is where that trash should be. So that's a really good thing too. If you find like a pain point in your room, such as that was annoying me. And you make sure that you teach that to everybody, because sometimes it feels like, man, I'm telling everybody about not putting trash in there. Why is this still happening? Well, you might have told 20 classes, but you forgot to tell 5 of them. So I like to put it in just at the beginning of the class so I don't forget those things. I share a lot of the routines that I use within my art room that you'll definitely want to check out. Again, make sure you are looking in those comments. I'm also going to include that within my freebie, a whole list of different routines that I have loved and adopted in my art room, particularly loving my cleanup and my lining up routine. They can change your art room. The new year is a great time to focus on new possibilities and new opportunities for yourself. Whether you're thinking about getting a new teaching job, just a hint, school districts start as early as February for hiring for the next school year, or you're thinking about getting a summer job this year, or even a side hustle, or maybe you just want to develop some new skills. If this sounds like you're going to want to check out my art teacher interview playlist. I have information about resumes, portfolios, online interviews, as well as in-person interviews. And let me tell you something, of all the things I've done with managing the mess, this is the one where I get the most feedback, the most stories where people come back to me and say, I got my dream job, and these videos gave me tips and confidence to help me get there. You don't want other people having that advantage and not you. So be sure to check that out. I surveyed many of you over on Instagram and here on YouTube about what point in your class did most of the student misbehavior occur. And many of you focused your answers in on the cleanup time. So in the new year, be looking for more videos from me about cleanup tips. Now, cleanup really should be a team effort. When I first started teaching, I would spend a lot of time cleaning up after my students. I was thinking that I was doing such a great job. The students are having so much fun. And this is what it was like. I was making my job a lot harder. And I also was cheating my students out of learning that responsibility, that we're a community. We're all having this wonderful art experience, but also it's our responsibility to clean it up. Over the years, I developed a much more positive strategy for my students to get them to know the directions and be clear on what was happening. So I would give my cleanup directions at the beginning of art class when I was introducing the materials. I would explain how we were going to put them away. So when we got to the end of the class, where they were already maybe touching their clay project or in the middle of painting, we had to stop, they would know what I was referring to with my cleanup directions. It wouldn't be the first time that they were ever hearing about, let's say, the drying rack. And I would also create visual strategies. So things such as Pennsylvania here, where my pencils live, there's a little circle underneath where each cup goes, so students know when a cup is missing. We also have a different colored cup, got these from Target a while back, for each table. So we can see if like the red and the pink cups are missing, we know that those are what we're looking for in the art room. Those things really helped me out a lot with my cleanup. I have many more tips about cleanup that I've already have on my channel, like how to avoid cleanup chaos and also how to give good directions. I know I was giving very vague directions. I wasn't giving very consistent directions to my students to motivate them. And that is something that really changed my teaching. So you'll want to check that out as well. As promised, for making it to the end of this video, you should be rewarded. There is a freebie over on my Teachers Pay Teachers, linked down below, with all of these Art Teachers New Year's resolutions listed, along with links taking you directly to the playlist or video that I recommend to best align to your goals. Feel free to share this with your art teacher community. These videos are going to help you to feel energized, organized, and confident. Wishing you a creative, inspired, and manageable new year.